Well, good evening, and today I have a little surprise for you. Today we're in my home, in my very, very messy home. I'm wallpapering the living room and dining room, and I'm sure you will appreciate furniture's pulled out, baskets everywhere, trays, and so on. So it's live at the Haerings, and I have a special guest with me tonight. I consider him one of the best papers in town. His name is Bob Stevens, and I have worked with Bob over the years. And Bob will fill us in and give us some tips of what to do and not to do about wallpaper hanging. He told me before we started, it's not wallpapering, he said, it's wallpaper hanging. So I have to watch myself and not make that mistake. And you can hear him giggle in the background. So I'd like to introduce you Bob Stevens. Hello. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you can take time out to do this little show with us.
Okay.
Wallpaper hanging, and especially I think it's a little bit different if you work with an older home like my home. Mm-hmm. This house was built in 1900. Mm-hmm. So when you pull the old wallpaper off, there's quite some surprises underneath. And maybe you want to explain what happened in this case or in this house.
Well, here we had a lot of cracks. There's been many layers of paint on these walls. In many places the paint was separating between the layers, plaster was pulling off, sand paint was various places. It was pretty rough, and layers of wallpaper. We pulled off some of the wallpaper and the walls were still pretty rough. So what we decided to do was to put a liner paper up over this. A liner paper is basically a blank wallpaper. This white background that you're seeing right here is a liner paper. And if you want to get a piece of it here, I'll get a piece of it.
Please.
And this is the paper, just a blank white paper. But this paper is made to go over problem walls. It's you really have to work pretty hard at tearing it.
Yes.
It's stronger than other paper, so it'll bridge over a lot of the roughness on the walls and make it smooth. You'll still see little bumps, but they're rounded off. And this also puts a nice smooth backing for the new wallpaper to go on.
Yeah, and it also, I think it would, in the end, it saves money, because if you want to put new drywall up, in older homes or in historical homes like this, you really, if you want to put drywalling up, you really need to remove all the woodwork.
Yeah, you got a major mess here. I mean, we're talking major mess, because you would have to pull off, normally you pull off the old walls, or you can go over. Any way you do it, it's a major mess with dirt, dust everywhere. It's not where you would want to live in the house where it's being done. I mean, you don't want to.
Yeah.
And this, as I said, this definitely would compare quite favorably price-wise, even having a person like me doing it or doing it yourself with it.
Yeah, and then Bob, and you can buy that in any retail store that sells wallpaper.
Wherever they sell it, they usually have it in stock, and it's very easily put up. Now they even have it pre-pasted.
Yeah. And that was a big surprise to me, because I worked with it before and it wasn't pasted, and so I watched you working with this, and this is pre-pasted, so it would be just handling this just like wallpaper. You wet it down and you just work with it like you would with a piece of wallpaper. This is also, I understand, ideal over paneling.
Yes, it does. For the paneling, the grooves, you can still see the grooves through them, because it won't come smoothly, bridge it over. If you don't mind, there'll be a little bit of a gap there, but it's better than, many other ways of dealing with it.
So this is a good way to repair your walls.
Yes, definitely a way that I would recommend to people, and particularly is if you repair a crack. even if you tape it over, what happens is usually the crack will just go right next to it.
Right.
This right here, you're doing the whole wall, so if the crack is here now, but it comes back there, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
So-
Bob covered all these walls for me, and they looked pretty bad.
Yes.
There were a lot of cracks in
Or
there.
you can even paint over this if you want to. It's not that hard to get your seams down nice and smooth, and then basically this is just a surface that you can easily paint. I did that in my own dining room where I
Yeah.
just papered it with this and then just painted over it, and you cannot tell that there's any wallpaper underneath it.
Right.
It looks nice and smooth.
Yeah.
And,
And it's also flexible, I
very
understand.
flexible.
So houses always move.
It's because it doesn't tear very easily. It's a much more durable than any of your other factors.
Okay, so after the wall liner comes up, and it was fairly easy to do, and then you want to fill us in a little bit how the best way to put it down, vertical or what would you suggest?
The lining paper you're talking
Yes,
about? No, okay.
yes.
The liner paper, normally it's actually put horizontally.
Horizontal.
Basically because you don't want your seams, if you have the seams, if both seams of the lining paper and the regular paper fall in the same place, it would be very weak. I went and put it vertical, so just kind of ignore that, but
Yeah.
I'm being very, very careful just to keep my seams in different places
Good.
on there.
Yeah, good.
And it'll
And then you let it dry overnight.
Yes, usually they recommend at least 1 day, but preferably 2 days. We put this up on Saturday, I
Yes,
believe. And
yes.
So this is, was it Thursday?
This is Thursday,
Yeah,
so it has been
Yeah,
here for a
This has been
while.
up a number of days,
Yeah.
and so it's all
That's
all
right.
very definitely dry and
Yeah.
secure.
And then also when it's up, do check if there might be some loose
Yeah,
spots.
yeah. We went around and just basically tried all our seams, and our seams really feel pretty tight, and everything just that it all took. And the pre-pasted one worked very well. It's very good.
I was
adhesion to it.
surprised.
I
Yeah,
was too, actually. I thought it was
Yeah, and that's the first time you used it too,
the
wasn't it?
pre-pasted. I used
Yeah.
the other. I normally use the other that I paste, and but this
Yeah.
seemed to have held
Good.
up very well.
Good. And then the fun part is, of course, before you start with all this project, is selecting wallpaper. And there is a variety of styles and manufacturers on the market, and you can go to your local retail store and you can have fun with this. And you should really, and you're laughing.
Yeah.
You should also really take your time and think about what style you want to have in your home. And your local decorator can help you with that if you visit with them. And then what I suggest is if you narrowed it down to some styles and colors to order samples in. And most manufacturers will give you free samples, and then go home with these samples and tape them
Yes.
to the wall and live with those strips of wallpaper for a while and see how you like them in different lights, different times of the day.
Yeah. What you find with wallpaper is that wallpaper really gives a room a personality.
Yes.
If you look at these walls now, I mean, if they were just painted white, they'd look nice and clean. Okay, but they're going to be, it's just a hard white surface. It's going to, to make this livable, you would have to have a lot of pictures up and do things.
Right.
When you put wallpaper up, instantly you have a feel. You've created basically a personality of the room. I mean, now here, this is a very active paper with the stripes here. This is a lively room, living room, where you entertain.
Right.
And you wanted something with some life, some interest to it.
Yeah, something
perhaps-
different.
Yes, I mean, a bedroom, you might want a very soft paper, just to put that
Yeah.
easier atmosphere or whatever else.
Yeah, and as you can see, I like to mix and match
Yes,
fabrics.
yes,
I go with stripes, and then my couch is a floral, and then I have plaid pillows. So I'm very daring when it comes to things
Well,
like
yeah,
this.
it's fun.
And we'll come back when it's all put together, and then we can kind of show you what I have done.
Okay.
But there is a lot of help out there, Bob. You know, if you can go to your local retail store and say, I want a wallpaper, but what do you have? Or you kind of tell them, this is my lifestyle, this is what I want to achieve. And there are so many things out on the market that the sky is really the limit. And then all you need to do is then buy your wallpaper and hire somebody. Or if you're really brave, and maybe tonight, Bob, we can encourage people to start wallpapering and having fun.
Wallpaper hanging is not that hard to do per se. How to do it, simple mechanics of it, there's many simple books or videotapes that you can get now how to do it, the mechanics of it. Mostly with paper hanging, it's experience. And just plain taking your time, it's like any art or craft, just like sewing, for a very good example. Sewing, really, there's not that much to really sewing, but to really make an outfit fit nice and everything, it takes experience and just practice and just doing it. Cooking, all these things, it takes a lot of practice.
Child rearing.
Well, okay.
I don't know how that would work with wallpaper hanging, and you noticed I made a mistake, and I apologize.
Well,
I said,
I'm trying to be polite.
So I'm trying to remember. It's hard if you have this word in your brain. But shall we start? Can you kind of give us some tips? And I thought maybe we can put up a strip of wallpaper, and as we go along, do explain what you're doing.
Okay, so we're up to this point. We've gotten about 2/3 of the room done, and we're up to this window here. I don't know whether you can see it very clearly in the videotape, but there is these stripes, but there is a basic, very subtle pattern here that there isn't a carryover match, but there is a pattern here, so we are going to have to line that up. First of all, what I try to do is I'm just going to lay out the piece. This is dry, obviously. I want it to go down a little bit beyond the baseboard and a little bit above that. I want to cut it big and just get it. So to get my pattern in, at least an inch on the bottom and the top, preferably 2 inches on the bottom and the top, because the bottom and top is never smooth, and you want to be able to match it. Let's see.
And I suppose the manufacturer would call that a drop match. Is that correct? And usually it's listed how many inches. Okay, so you mark that.
Yes, I'm going to do that. And then, if I can find some of my toys, just a minute, I'll get some of my things.
Okay.
Found our repeat. We've cut it. I'm cutting it right now where I found the cuts.
When you're using a square to be really...
This is just to keep my thing, and I use a lot of single-edge razors with this holder. It's basically I found the best way to cut paper. And we'll flip it over, and now I'm going to paste it. A lot of your wallpaper comes through pre-pasted now. I'd say probably 80% of it, probably. Don't you think that much?
80%, but the wallpaper I chose came unpasted.
Yes.
So
your nicer papers, generally speaking, come through unpasted. Your more expensive ones, also your vinyls, your heavy wallpaper, the ones that you see on hospitals and institutions, that very heavy stuff, that never comes through pasted. And what we're using, oh boy, do I have any of the paste left over?
Yeah, and we can't. We can't name the name brand, but you can describe it to us, Bob.
This what I've used. This is a cellulose-based wallpaper paste. It's a standard multi-purpose one that you can get in all the wallpaper stores. You mix up with water in a pail. And then I just put it into my paint tray, paint tray, and I just use it with a regular old paint tray, just like that. I mix it up in a pail. I've got my little egg beater right there.
Yeah,
it's
whisk.
the easiest way. whatever. It works. When you mix up a lot of it, you pretty much go to your easiest way.
Yeah, and you just mix it with water, Bob.
Yes, it's just mixed with water. And paste-wise, this is, as I said, a multi-purpose one, so you pretty well can use it on most wallpapers. Very strong. And after I paste a section, what I do is I fold over. Fold it over.
And that's called in the trade booking.
Booking. Now what this does is wallpaper, when it's dry, is when it's wet, it swells up. It'll actually expand.
Okay.
And so you've got to give wallpaper a couple of minutes of just setting there to cure. Because if you don't, if I were to put this up right away,
Yeah.
what would happen on the wall is it would just bubble up. I mean, it's going to swell up, and the only place it can swell up is it'll just bubble up.
Yeah.
It's just going to do. Well, what it's telling you is you have to let it cure a little bit longer. You give it a couple of minutes. It's one of those things where you just sort of work with. You just find your own rhythm about how long you have to let it set up. And what I do is if I have a lot of them, if I basically paste a piece up and then I can't use it, I'll just take a garbage bag and put it in a plastic garbage bag.
Oh.
What that'll do is it'll keep it from drying out, because that's what you don't want it to do. If it sits too long and just right here, it will dry out.
And then it's ruined, isn't it?
Well, it could be. It could be. It depends on the paper. Sometimes you can save it. I don't want to do that, but okay. Now, while this is curing about a minute, I'm going to size the wall. So, okay.
Okay, just a
With
moment.
this wallpaper, I found the best way is I'm using the same paste right on the wall. And I'm just roll it right out. I normally like to paste it and then just put the wallpaper right on up over top of it. This can dry out. I happen to like to leave it wet.
Uh-huh.
And what this has a benefit of basically double pasting it. You've pasted the back of the paper.
Yeah.
Now you've pasted the wall, so you've got two places. And particularly on the edges of it, where it tends to dry out first, if it dries out on the paper,
Right.
well, then you have the opportunity, you have the paste here, that'll keep it. And I found that wallpaper definitely goes a lot easier. This also, see, because your surface is very dry normally, and will suck the moisture right out of it. This will slow the drying down, give you a little more time to work with it. It'll also make the wall a little bit more slippery, where you can move the piece around and get it to that place without setting up. This doesn't have to be anything real fancy that I'm doing. It's just
Rolling it out and
rolling it out and just giving it nice and smooth and whatever else. I think that's pretty good. I think my paper ought to be just about cured.
all right.
Okay, here, I'll just take this, bring this over.
Okay.
And also, booking it makes it a lot easier to carry around a house. You're not slopping it all over the furniture. Let's see, I don't think I have my razor knife. Can you give me the razor knife on
Sure,
top of the
be glad to.
furnace? I'll get a blue one.
Yeah. Do you have a fresh blade in there? So.
I think so. If
Okay.
not, I've got a pocket full of them.
All right.
Okay,
Here you
thank
go. You're welcome.
Thank you. So I come up to the thing, and basically what I do is I
You unfold one half.
unfold one half. I don't need to unfold the whole thing at once.
Okay.
It's right up there. Now what I'm doing is I line up my top mark here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a pattern here, and I've sort of got that. Now I'm getting my seam. I can feel that's pretty good. And we take it and we get our placement.
Okay, and what do you call the tool you're using right now?
This right here is a smoother. It's just a plastic thing that they make for wallpaper, paper hanging. It's slippery. Now, it used to be you had brushes that were about so long. I mean, I've got a bag full of them over there. I've got $35, $40 brushes in there.
Yeah.
I like this. I choose this. I use this all the time. Those brushes sit there and I carry them around.
Yeah.
I think it might impress some people that I've got expensive tools, but personally, I like this.
See,
this is what I use. I use this for everything. I like it. It smooths it down. You basically push her aside. Now, I've come up to the window and I sort of feel little places where I need to make cuts to get it out so that it'll feel the edge of the windows, the molding.
And that's
right there.
Very important, because you want to have the wallpaper butted up right to the woodwork or to your frame of your window.
And so you sort of try to work from the top down. See, I've still got this bottom half even folded there. So I'm just sort of letting it, making cuts here so that it fits in there. And I'm not really cutting fine. I haven't trimmed off anything yet.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of getting it down, and I think that's pretty good. Now, what we'll do is I'll get this bottom section here. If you start it up the top and you get in the right place, you've got it plumb, I mean straight up and down, the whole piece should come down nice and plumb. This piece over here I set up and I had a level on it and I got this piece nice and straight. And here I can see right there my seam has just come straight down. You start it off straight. If you start it off crooked, it'll go crooked the whole way down. But if it just, all of your matches, if there was a match here, flower, 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 they would all line up nice.
Okay.
If you've done it.
So plumb line is very important when you wallpaper.
Okay. My level. I use a level. I don't usually drop a plumb line.
All right.
Right over here. I just, this one right over here, I leveled it up and I just, as close as I possibly can, because it's much easier to hang wallpaper that's level. When you get it out of level, it's a lot harder. Because what you're going to find is nothing is going to match up very quickly and it's going to look bad very quickly. So you want to keep it as level as you possibly can. Okay.
Or if you start out wallpapering, Bob, pick a wallpaper that doesn't have to do any matching. That would be easy to hang. What do you think?
They're definitely easier.
It's a practice.
With a random match if you want to. I mean, like that. But this paper is pretty easy. But you just got to keep it straight up and down. Okay. Now I've sort of got it where I've got the piece laying flat on the wall, but you see now I have all my pieces how it's just stuck over there. So now I can start trimming it off clean. So I'll just go back up. I use this is just a straight edge. You can use a putty knife or anything. I happen to like the feel of this thing. It's a nice size. I just push it up there because you want to get wherever you're cutting, it's got to be tight up there. If it's not, if it's rounded or soft, that's where you're going to make a poor cut. But if you get this nice and tight up in there, I can see I got a nice clean cut. And then you just run your razor blade over. You try to keep a continuous cut. You don't try to pick up your razor blade. You try to keep it in one, keep continuous cut without picking it. Every time you pick it up, you'll have little jags there because you don't always get it exactly down. If you want a clean cut, you just try to keep it smooth. And you just sort of, now you see, I can see my blade is already, because you have plaster walls here, it's already killed this blade. I'm going to flip it over. Whatever there. If you have a dull blade, that's where your wallpaper will tear, and it's going to make a very poor cut. That's why I use the razor blades, because I found that they're inexpensive, and you can basically just replace them whenever they get the least bit.
And they come in package of, I don't know how much.
I usually buy them by 100. Well, I buy them by the cases of them, is what I do.
Yeah.
And so you can get them very inexpensive. But most wallpaper stores, you can buy them. And so, as I said, I'm just going to run down. You try to normally work from the top down.
Okay.
It just makes it a lot easier making your cuts. Going down. Getting down there, okay. There, you can see we're starting to look more like a finished piece already.
Yes.
We're starting to take shape. Oops, let's get, I'm dull again. I'm just going to throw him out and I'm going to put a new blade up. With these plaster walls, you have very hard walls that just dull these. And some people, they use a little stone, sharpening stone, and they'll sharpen them up. Well, I can't really be bothered with that. Now, right here, I'm just... And the straight edge, you see, makes it for a nice, clean, straight cut. I can just feel where it's going. And I can just follow the edge right there, and you can pretty much do this without even looking at it. You can just
Maybe you, Bob, but the rest of us.
Actually, you feel it, and there's a groove there that keeps your razor blade going straight down. And the thing is, you get a nice, clean cut there. You see, as long as you get it, as long as it's nice and tight. If I were to go over here where it's loose right here, I'd probably start tearing and I would not.
So all these tools that we were talking about, Bob, you can buy them at department stores and...
Yes, they're really you're really not talking a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking probably a couple dollars or something like this. This right here, a little roller for the seams. Now this is what I'm going to do next. This is now my seam, if I can ever find it. Right here. I want to just roll it down. Now your seam is your place that's just going to peel first.
Okay.
So I really want to make sure that's nice and tight there, because if it's not tight to the wall, it's going to peel. So basically this right here, I'll just run this down there, and that really makes sure that it's tight to the wall. And I'll run my hand, I can feel it if it's not smooth to the wall, if it's overlapped.
Yeah.
Let's see here, I can just...
So you could buy these tools in a hardware store, department store,
anywhere.
wallpaper supply store.
Sure, and you're not talking a lot of money.
Okay.
Even buying best quality, you're not talking a lot of money here.
Right.
You're talking very thin. I mean, for me, I have a wallpaper table, and I have a few things, but for years I just had sawhorses, old door or a piece of plywood. Hey, you know, it's there, and a roller tray. Well, that's very minimal amount of money, and ladder right here. I mean, most of the things here, you're talking very inexpensive profession here as far as tools go.
Yeah. And then most of us have little step stools and sawhorses.
So you're not talking here. You're talking a very manageable amount of money. Now the next thing I've got to do is I've got to wipe down this for things. I've got when I pasted it up, I probably got some paste on the surface, and when I roll down the seam, some of the paste may squeeze out in that seam there, just all over the place. So it's very important to wash it down. Just good sponge right here with water, and just really, really wash it. You really want to get it nice and clean, get all of that off of there, that paste, because definitely the paste is not going to do your wallpaper any good. It's not going to look good. It doesn't belong being on there. It's going to create a lot of problems. So,
what problems would it create if you don't do that?
For one thing, most wallpapers, if you leave paste on them, when the paste dries, it actually shrinks and it'll actually pull off your ink. If you leave a gob right there, what will happen is the paste will flake off when it's dry, but it'll also pull off ink, and you'll have a nice big gap right there. It may take you a couple of weeks or something like this. You probably won't.
So there's actually a chemical reaction that happens.
It doesn't react very nicely to paste, to any of the inks there, and it does look bad. It's not supposed to be on there. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time to
little tender loving care is in order. Well, this has been the Fairfield Home and Garden Journal again, and this were 30 fast minutes, and I hope you enjoyed getting some tips from Bob. And the last thing Bob would like to show you is, and that's really, Bob, the finishing touch after you put the wallpaper up, is covering switch plates and outlet plates.
We have one right over there that's covered. And okay, so first thing we would do is basically you have to get this is all, just regular paste. It's not pasted or anything. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on here just to try to get my placement of it. And I can feel, here's my switch, I can see it right there. So I want to cut it bigger. I'm just going to make some get just an approximate placement of it. Now what I'll do, after I get it cut larger than I know it is, I'm going to paste it up. Put some paste on it. Then I take my plate, where I want it to go, and now with my paste, now what I'm going to do is I got to get my alignment there. Just match up my stripes and get them all wherever it is. Okay. Try to as close as I can to. Okay, oops. Plate. Now, while it's okay, that looks like a pretty good placement there. So now what I do is I've taken off the plate just right where it is. And now what I've got to do is I've got to cut it a little bit closer to the thing. I'll show you the cut in just a second once I get it in. Okay, now I've cut it, you see, larger. Now what I do is I just fold it in. You can see the reasons why I cut this just where it is. I folded it in. And when you flip it over, you can see that the placement. With my finger I can feel where the opening is. And I just cut out the little switch plate opening there. Very simply. Up there. Now, what we do, I got all the paste all over because it sort of slopped on the wallpaper. Okay, now we just put it right on.
It matches perfect. I don't know if you can see it.
Again. Perfect again. Oh,
leave it to Bob.
It's just amazing. Well, what you find is if you have switches normally have a little bit of play to them, and you can, if you don't get it quite exactly on, you can normally
just even
push your switch plate over just a little bit.
Okay.
And you see with the stripes right here, you want to get your stripes just lined up. Now there will always be a little bit of distortion on a pattern.
Sure.
Flower right here and a flower right here. It's not going to match up perfectly, but as long as you have something like your stripes, you look at that and just give it a little smooth there, and it looks very nice.
That's it. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And,
well, thank you very much for having me.
So, thanks.